Welcome to the Dazzling Chap. In today's video we make a barbarian with the help of a little bit of silliness like this.
Mr. Tesla guy, you rain down awesome from the sky.
Welcome to the channel. We start as always with an armature made from some floppy aluminium wire, so I've twisted it in and around itself to give it a bit more strength. Then it's glued to corkboard with super glue and covered in green stuff. Normally this works brilliantly, but later on you'll see that I had some trouble with this. The green stuff is quite sticky and it helps Super Sculpey to stick to our butch green hulk of a lady. Then we start to add the Sculpey and brush it down with a bunch of tools and my thumb, just to get those thighs super smooth. Smooth.
Tamsin! Ooh! Tamsin!
Doing female anatomy is harder than male. Less definition, more smoothness. But it helps to kick the hips out at an angle so the shoulders slope at the opposite angle to her hips. In real life, do women really stand like that? Probably not. But in the fantasy world, and for the sake of making a tiny figure look like the thing we actually want it to, it seems to help a bit. Then we start to define the shape of her muscle groups, drawing in the spine and putting in shoulder blades and a more prominent upwards tilted ribcage. She's going to be tough but not overly muscle bound, and of course she has a lovely curved bottom that must be the envy of all of her friends.
Jean makers say this woman has the most perfect behind in America.
I feel very flattered that anyone would say that I have a perfect butt.
Can we make a better bottom than that? Let's give it a go, shall we? A lot of this seemingly endless process is about adding a bit of clay and then smoothing it all out, checking the proportions from every angle, then adding or taking off a bit more. It's honestly much more stressful making a woman than a man, or a monster, so if you're new to sculpting like I am, take my advice. Start with something much easier to get the hang of at first. Wrinkly old dudes and misshapen monsters are much more forgiving to sculpt than a slender, well-proportioned woman. And the Dazzling Chap is absolutely not a sexist channel, so while it might seem like I'm suggesting women are more difficult, what I really mean is that men are more useless. Anyway, I'm rather proud of those knees. Weird, I know, but I think they came out quite well. And then we get on to the overgrown fantasy bosom. We want these to sit high and proud, but at the same time I'm trying really hard to avoid making cartoonishly large boobs. I've seen some frankly disgustingly misogynistic female sculptures in the miniature hobby world, as we don't want our barbarians to be lumbered with big silicone nose bags getting in the way of a sword arm, so I gradually push them back and smooth them out until they feel right for her frame. And speaking of sword arms, I've pushed that down and back behind her, not in a pose to strike at her enemies, because I want her to look like she's finished the battle and is taking home the spoils. Then I pop her into the oven to cook, and once she's cooled down, we can move on to the head. Did I say women were difficult, or women's faces are even more difficult? Which is stupid considering how much time I spend gazing soppily at them. But they're smooth and curved and delicate and require really gentle pressure to build up the correct shape, and my god, I've already spent far too long doing this bloody stupid model. What the heck? So let's get on to the Barbarian outfit instead. Starting with the boots, which will be your standard laced together furry moccasin affairs, which would be great to show you, but sadly the cameraman was drunk that day.
Cut! Rick, man, you're fucking killing me here.
What's up, man?
75 pages. We gotta finish 75 pages today.
That's a lot, man.
It is a lot of pages. Now what we need is simple medium shot. Can we do that?
And then we add some texture in over the laces to blend it all in.
Rick, well, you know what, man? You're fucking fired. Can we get this guy out of here?
And a furry top pushed into the clay with one of those cool little ball shaper tools. It was this point I thought, hey, this isn't nearly complicated enough. Why not suggest that she's walking across some pockmarked lava-strewn land? So I started poking holes and dents into the floor I'd placed under her. With that decided, I can start to put on some clothes. We have a ready-made excuse for why she's not actually going to be wearing very much. There's lava, man. It's too hot for dressing up. Promise that this white stuff is Super Sculpey Bond or nothing sinister. And as it says here, and you can probably already tell by now, I have no fixed idea of what she's going to look like at the end. Is that a sensible way to make miniatures? Not really. Am I too lazy and or disorganised to actually plan these things out properly? Yes I am. So we put a kind of fabric jerkin, stop it, to cover up her nethers and move on to a bodice type bra type thing. The kind of outfit that will get you arrested on the high street but seems not to raise even an eyebrow in the fantasy world. I mean, can you imagine popping down to the supermarket in this? And then on to the fancy brocade, which you make by rolling out super thin lines of clay and smushing them into place with the clay shape. It takes forever.
Absolutely gorgeous design.
And on to the shoulder pads, which is where the poor girl finally gets some sort of actual protective armour. You know, some real useful clothing. I built this up layer by layer so it's a kind of metallic armadillo encasing her whole shoulder. And then something incredible happens. Something never seen before in the United Kingdom. The sun came out and ruined my video more than I'd already ruined it myself. So I abandoned the whole thing and went and sat in the corner and thought seriously about my life choices.
And it's beautiful. Every 10 seconds, NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory takes pictures of 10 different wavelengths, temperatures, and layers of our sun.
Alright, so coming back to this, and I figured I'd already spent more hours of my life doing this than was really healthy, so in for a penny, in for a pound. Let's do more fiddly and time-consuming brocade on the shoulders. And next we move on to the sword. I've had a bit of a nightmare with the dwarf barbarian I made. You can see that video on a link in the corner, in that his weapon has snapped off more times than I can count since I made it. So this time I'm making a more robust weapon with a bamboo skewer, with the added benefit of being able to order chicken satay. We carve this stick down with a knife until we have a thin blade shape, then do the handle, and then I do our hand actually onto the handle rather than on the model. This makes it easier to stick together later, and works surprisingly well, though this is the third hand I had to make, because the first was too large and the second hand knuckles like an arthritic leper. While we got a bit of bamboo skewers left, I decided to make a severed zombie head, because I've lost all concept of time at this point. The original plan was to stick the head on a pike and have it in the background, maybe with some skulls and other fantasy gubbins, but then I remembered I haven't actually done her left hand yet. It's just never ending. It's just never ending. So I decided to make this for her outstretched hand instead. And going back to my point earlier about making female faces, this one is so much easier in comparison. Harder chiseled lines and a couple of pointy ears, because, you know, fantasy, and lots of creases to give it that leathery rotten look. And he's done. And just for a change of pace, I figured I'd make braces for her forearms and cover them in, yes, some more brocade. What an idiot. Then I made a little dagger out of bamboo, and threw that away and made another one that is completely different. And I want to weigh her down with little trinkets and potions and useful stuff. And while I give poor Barbara some eyes and hair, I think we can finally call this just about done. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like this sort of thing, then please do subscribe, like, and let me know what other stuff you'd like me to make in the comments. I'm posting videos about every 4 days or so hit the notifications thingy too so you can catch up on the next one. In the meantime, let's neck a fistful of gravel and moonshine whiskey, put on our best movie trainer voice, and get on with the backstory.
With her braces slicked in sweat and her sword heavy in her hand, she descends from the moonlit woods into Fuegar, the land on fire. Rumor has it there's a wizard there that will pay good coin for the head of the Nergast. Many have tried and failed to bring the cursed demon's head to these woods, but she's never let a man's failings stop her before. As the horizon bursts into flame, she grips her sword tighter, her courage quelling her fear, ready for anything. Her name is Barbara Ann, and if you find that funny, then know that she's faced scarier beings than you, my friend, and killed them all the same.